With me today, I have a brand new and refreshed 2020 Honda CR-V. Now, I fell in love with the CR-V ever since I reviewed the 2019 model. It was spacious, it was comfortable, pretty much did everything well. And I thought at the time it was definitely the leader in the compact SUV segment. And I say compact lightly because in terms of interior space, this rivals some mid-size SUVs. But for 2020 model year, Honda decided to do a refresh. Now there are changes on the outside, changes on the inside, more standard safety features, and more standard features overall. So is this the best CR-V ever? And is it the best compact SUV on the market today? We'll keep watching and find out. First, I want to give big thanks to Honda of Laos, which made this video possible. So if you're in the market for a brand new or used Honda, make sure you check them out. Their URL is in the description below. Starting with the outside, the 2020 CR-V received a refresh to make it more aggressive and in line with the competition. The grille on the CR-V has been changed and blackened out versus last year's model, and the lower bumper is completely different. The silver trim piece wraps around some black cladding and grills on the lower bumper to make it look more like an angry mouth in my opinion. The Touring trim receives LED headlights with auto on-off, and most trims besides the base LX receive new LED fog lights. The side of the CR-V stays the same, but for the 2020 model year, the Touring trim now gets standard 19-inch alloy wheels, which really look like they're a perfect fit. The LX gets 17-inch wheels, while the EX and EXL gets 18-inch wheels. You can see sculpted body lines on the CR-V with wheel haunches sticking out. On top, you have aluminum roof rails, and toward the bottom, you have a shadow chrome trim that stretches from the front all the way to the rear bumper. The back of the CR-V has been refreshed with smoke LED taillights and revised lower bumper. There is still a roofline spoiler on top, followed by a large privacy glass. The lower bumper have a lot of black cladding with a silver trim piece in the middle that mimics the front bumper. Touring is the only trim with dual chrome exhaust finishers. The EXL and the Touring are equipped with powered tailgate, but only the Touring is equipped with hands-free feature, which works every time. The tailgate also does a good job retracting if it detects something underneath. The trunk is massive in the CR-V, and on both sides you have an elastic band to hold things in. The bottom cover has two settings. The default one is a little bit lower, and underneath it stores the spare tire. However, you can remove the cover and put it in a higher setting, which is about 3 inches higher. This makes the cover flush to the rear and makes the holes on both sides deeper. Finally, on top, you have a privacy cover to hide your things. As for the engine and transmission, the CR-V has a 190 horsepower engine, turbo 4-cylinder that is pushing 179 pound-feet of torque. This used to be reserved only on the higher trims, but that is no longer the case in 2020. This engine is now standard on all trims. The engine is mated to a CVT transmission. Moving to the second row, the door opening is massive as they open a full 90 degrees. Inside, you're greeted to a lot of black leather on this Touring trim, and there are some wood trim on the door panels. The second row seatbacks can fold flat by pulling on the levers. Rear passenger gets a pair of vents and a pair of USB ports. There are 2 sets of car seat latches and one spare one in the middle. With the 2020 Honda CR-V, there are 4 trim levels. The base is the LX, it starts a tad over $25,000, and then you have the EX, EXL, and finally the Touring, and that's what I'm reviewing today. The Touring starts at around $33,250. Now, all trim levels get the same Honda Sensing safety suite and the same turbocharged 190 horsepower engine, but moving up to the EX, now you have blind spot information with cross traffic alert added on, dual zone automatic climate control, and those of you guys that are looking for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, unfortunately they're not available to LX. You do have to upgrade to the EX to get them. Now moving up to EXL, you do get leather trimmed interior, power tailgate, power adjustable seating. Finally with the Touring, you get even more with hands-free power tailgate, wireless phone charger, bigger 19-inch wheels, heated steering wheel, and a few other things. Alright, I'm behind the steering wheel, so let me show you the cabin and the features you'll find in this brand new 2020 CR-V. Starting with the steering wheel, well, this didn't change, and this is shared across Honda's cars and SUVs, and that's okay. I think this is a good steering wheel. It has a modern design, it has the right thickness, and at the 10-2 spot as well. The leather is slightly slippery, but I'll let you guys know how this is once I start driving. Now the button configuration is very similar as well. On this side, this controls adaptive cruise control, which is part of Honda Sensing, which is standard now on all CR-V trims. This is for lane keep system. This turns both on or off. And now standard for 2020 on the Touring Edition, you do have heated steering wheel. Now on this side, you have volume control, phone control over here, voice control, and this basically controls the info screen inside the gauge cluster. Now, in terms of gauge cluster, this is also shared. Looks very familiar. Looks like the one in the Pilot, in the Odyssey, and other Honda cars. Now, on the side there, you have temperature. This is for fuel, and the speedometer and tachometer is now digital in the middle. Now, if you press this menu button over here, you can scroll through your fuel, trip computer, navigation. This is like drowsiness, how drowsy you are. This is to see what your all-wheel drive is doing, maintenance, music, phone, and changing your display to kilometers per hour. So this is pretty standard. You'll find this in a lot of cars. But everything is nice and big, and no complaints. Now, moving on to the left side, you have some controls here. Power tailgate, traction control. This is for pre-collision, and this is for the lane keep assist system. On this side, you have some memory seats, which is standard on a Touring, and then this is controls for your window and mirrors. Now, in terms of windows, auto up and down only for the driver and passenger. Now, moving on to the center here, the infotainment screen. Again, this didn't change, and this is shared across other cars such as the Honda Civic. It's a touchscreen interface. It's a little bit laggy. As you can see, there's a slight lag there, but overall it works and it's easy to understand. On the side here, you do have home, maps, audio, phone, back, and then you see those in the middle as well as some other things such as smartphone connection, app list, Honda Link. Now app list, you can get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. Those are standard. This is the Touring Edition, so it does have navigation, but even if you didn't get it, you don't have navigation, you can just use the navigation from your phone, so that's really good. And also you do have a volume knob over here, so that is here, no worries about that. Now in terms of climate control, it's kind of mixed. You see there's a climate button here, you press that, it brings up some things such as the mode, your fan control and AC on or off, but you have fan control over here as well. So climate control is mixed between touch and physical buttons. You also have knobs. You have auto over here, sync over there, and it's dual zone, so you can just go up or down like so. Heat and mirrors over here, as well as some defroster options, recirculating, and if you want things on or off, there you go. Heated seats, 3 stages for both the driver and passenger. Those are standard on this Touring, as well as the heated steering wheel I showed you guys. But no ventilated seats. That is still not an option on this CR-V. Engine start-stop button over here. You do have electronic brake and brake hold. Over here, this is now new and standard across all the trims. Engine auto start-stop, which will save some gas when you come to a stop. Traditionally, I'm not a fan of that, but this is now standard along with economy mode. And a standard shifter, which I'm in love with because Honda, as you guys know, kind of went the route of push button shifting, and I'm just not a fan of that. It takes getting used to. In the CR-V, that didn't change. Unfortunately though, I've been watching videos about the hybrid version that's going to come out next year. It looks like Honda caved in and put the push buttons over here, but I like this. You don't have to relearn it. The only thing different about this one is there is an S, which is sport mode. Normally sport modes, it's like a button that you press. This one you do have to shift to it. And I'm going to test that out and see if I notice a difference. Now, moving down here, the center console, this is where Honda made some dramatic changes and some genius changes, really. So let me show you what I'm talking about. First of all, USB ports moved over here. They used to be inside the armrest. Difficult to get to, but now they're over here, along with wireless charging. This is now standard on Touring as well, so you can turn it on and off, place your phone here, charge here, whatever you want to do. This is just much better than before. You got cup holders here, and then let me show you the armrest. So flip this open, and you have like dual shelves right now, right? As you can see. Now this shelf also slides back, so if you wanted more space over here, and there's a 12V outlet, that is fine. But if you want even more space, you don't want that shelf at all, look at that. Lift it up and away it goes. Previously, there was a shelf that you could remove. But then, what do you do with the shelf, right? You just throw it somewhere. Now, you don't have to worry about removing it. It just folds up. And Honda is like master at the center console and configurations and stuff like that. In the Civic, same thing. The way they did it was just genius, and I think this is genius too. So kudos Honda. This is brand new and it just works really well. Now in terms of seats, like the rear, they're leather seats. They have a good design. It looks like it's well bolstered, so I'll let you guys know how this feels once I start driving around. Now in terms of the layout, the door design and the dash, that stayed the same. You have some good contrast. As you can see, the handles and the surrounds are aluminum. You have some fake wood trim along with the black. So you do have some contrast there, but this pretty much stays the same. And then you move into the center here, the dash, and leading into the infotainment screen and this whole setup and the gauge cluster and the steering wheel. Overall, I still think this looks pretty good. It still looks modern and sleek, doesn't look very outdated. Up here, pretty standard. You have some controls for the lights, home link over here, and controls for the sunroof, which is a normal one. All right, let's go for a drive and see how this brand new CR-V is on the roads. Now, I remember after I reviewed the 2019 CR-V, it was also touring, I came away super impressed. And at that time, I didn't review that many cars yet, but I was just thinking, wow, this is an amazing compact SUV. And I still think so. Right now, it's just a very quiet and smooth ride. The engine at idle, from the outside, is a little bit noisy, but on the inside, it's very quiet. And once you start moving, you cannot hear the engine. Now, granted, I'm going slow. I'm not flooring it. I'll let you guys know if that changes once I'm up to speed. But right now, I don't hear the engine. I don't hear any wind noise at all. And road noise, none. It's just super quiet in here. And it's very comfortable. It's very comfortable. The seats, I feel like, are very comfortable. They're holding me in right now. The suspension is doing its thing, right? So overall, this is still very impressive. Now, in terms of driving position, seating position, you do sit a little bit lower. This is on the lower side. It's not as high as a mid-size SUV, but for a lot of you guys, you'll appreciate that. Definitely very easy to get into. I showed you guys the trunk. The lift-in height into the trunk is very low, so it's very easy to haul in and put large things in, like luggage. Now, in terms of safety features, those of you guys that aren't familiar, Honda, their safety suite is called Honda Sensing, which they're trying to roll out to basically every model and every trim. Now, the CR-V, it is now standard across every trim level. I don't know how Honda did it. They're magicians or wizards figured out how to utilize every single inch of the interior, and you get so much space. Honestly, this rivals the space in a lot of mid-size SUVs, and I'm not joking about that. The back seat, the second row I showed you guys, enormous amount of space. I'm not a short guy. I'm 5'10", and I have a good 6 to 8 inches of legroom left in a compact SUV. And same with headroom, and up here too, very wide, very spacious. You don't feel cramped at all. Plenty of headroom. Shoulder room, as you can see, I can do that, no problem. It is just very spacious. I don't know how Honda did it. Okay. Um, that to me was a little bit on the slow side. This is utilizing a turbocharged engine, 190 horsepower, and it is mated to a CVT transmission that's simulating shifts. So that was actually a little bit slower. Little bit slower than I remember. I thought that this engine was okay. But let me test it in sport mode and see if it makes any difference, because, you know, I just got done reviewing a RAV4 TRD off-road that had a little bit more power, 203 horsepower, but it was natural aspirated. That felt a little bit quicker, but maybe things will change once I put this in sport mode. Now, in terms of steering, it's okay. It has a good weight to it, but there is some play, as you can see, right? So it takes away from the feel of it, but overall, it's okay. For most of you guys, I think you're going to enjoy this. So I just put it in sport. Unfortunately, without a sport button, when you guys are shifting down, be careful, because it might go too low and go into L. So when you go in sport mode, I don't think that really made much of a difference. It felt about the same. So honestly, a CRV, in terms of power, I'm sure if you guys are trying to get up to speed, get on the highway, it'll get its job done, but it's a little bit on the slower side in my opinion. You know, I mentioned about how the engine at idle is a little bit noisy, but when I was cruising at low speeds, I didn't really hear it. But when you're just go and doing stop and go like this, and you're just trying to accelerate, the engine is loud. You can hear the engine. And that's unfortunate because everything else is still very quiet. Very quiet. So now that I'm going about 35, 40 miles per hour, still no wind noise, no road noise. But when you accelerate, you can hear the engine, and it's not a good engine sound either. And there's no exhaust noise whatsoever. You know, one thing that I think other manufacturers have done a better job at is coming out with sport variants of their compact SUVs to add a bit more color, you know, more playfulness to their SUVs, where Honda really has kept it the same. And it's kind of the same with all Honda cars really, but with the CRV, you know, I'm wishing that there was optional, let's say these wood trims be replaced with, say, carbon fiber, or maybe a different color, or just aluminum, you know, something that's a little bit different. And overall, maybe have some red stitching or different colored leather, right? That's where, you know, like Toyota and Subaru really kind of embrace that. And I think a lot of people love that because, like, for example, the Forester Sport, which I love, you know, has a lot of orange inside, orange and black, and it's just done in an elegant way, and it just looks good. The same thing Toyota, what they have done with the Adventure and also the TRD off-road trims of the RAV4, also the same thing. And you really don't get that with the CRV, so I'm wishing Honda does that. You know, come out with some kind of trim or just even options to kind of make it a little bit more lively, playful, you know, for the younger crowd. The seats are pretty comfortable. The bolstering is just the right size, at least for my back, and they're holding me in, so I'm not really sliding around. In terms of brakes, they're a little bit stiff, which is a little bit weird, because normally Hondas, when I test, they're kind of like right in between, right in the middle. It's a linear feel. This one is a little bit stiff, meaning that I do find I need to press down a little bit harder to make the CRV come to a stop. And that's a surprise, actually. Now, on the open road, I think suspension is still pretty good, although I do find a tad springy, a tad bumpy. So When I was going low speeds, it felt really good. Now at higher speeds, I do feel the road a little bit more. It's definitely not bad, but I do feel a tad more from these imperfections and bumps on the road. Lastly, I didn't show you the rear camera, so let me show you real quick. If you go into reverse, you can see this is what's behind you, obviously with grid lines, but you could change the view so that this is a wider view, but you could change it so it's like a less wider view, more of a linear view. And then this also looks straight down, so in case there's toys or something down there, you can also see it as well. Lastly, let's look at the good and bad to this brand new CR-V, starting with the good. The exterior refresh is great looking, there is an enormous amount of space on the inside, Honda Sensing is now standard, there are more standard features across all trims, the CR-V provides a quiet and comfortable ride, and finally that redesigned center console is a lot more useful. As for the bad, there's also a few things. The engine is a little bit loud, the acceleration is just so-so, there is some play in the steering wheel, the brakes are a tad stiff, and finally there's no sport or off-road variant trims available. Overall, I'm giving the brand new 2020 Honda CR-V a score of 95, which is one of the highest I've ever given. So if you want to see how the CR-V compares with its peers, then check out driversonlyrankings.com. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe to the channel and check out some of these other videos.